Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. This was a good plant, now it's not. And I've always said when a plant starts going downhill, unless there's some sort of disease issue, the chances are it's underground that the problem will be. Now this was taken out of its pot not that long ago and put in pure moss to try and get some roots to grow, and I don't think they're growing. That proves the point, they're not. There's just no root growth on this plant. It's just stopped altogether. It's not growing. Well, I'll explain. That's a dead bit, we don't want that anyway. See, there's a dead piece there. The whole piece of that piece is just dead. And what we've got left is not good. Well, that's what I've got. I mean, I've got new growths. There are some new growths, but there is no root growth. It's just not there. These are just dead. So that is a rootless piece, effectively, apart from that one root there. That's it. That whole piece has got no live roots. So what else have we got then? This bit's looking very sorry for itself. Again, dead piece. I think I left some of these on deliberately to see if they were... So that root's gone. Again, no roots. But we do have two new growths, three new growths. There's three, and possibly another one there. So there's life in it, but no roots. Last pieces, that's not worth bothering with. And nor is that. So that's to go. And we're going to put this... See, now logically most people would say, you know, if you want to generate some root growth, put it in moss. Yeah, that's all very well if it's a plant that could naturally be found growing in moss, but I've been doing some reading. This fundamentally is 90% a terrestrial. It's not a tree dweller. And the types of places that it comes from vary quite a bit. But the one thing they've got in common is probably acidity from the materials on the ground, which is the likes of leaf litter. And leaf litter accumulates over a period of time and degenerates into a peaty type of acidic material. The sort of stuff you use as compost on your garden, which is just decomposed leaf litter basically. Well, if that's the environment it's used to growing in, then that's what it's going to get. And let's see if that works. So I'll be back with a mix that you won't have seen before because I haven't used it before. So we need to go and get the bits. Okay, let's have a bit of everything. Absolutely every type of media I've got is going in here, in quantities to be discussed. First thing I'm going to do is use some cocoa husk. That's moisture retentive, but I only want small pieces, don't want big pieces, so I'm going to do some chopping, which is tedious, but it works. To a degree you can tear this stuff up if it's bigger than you want, but as this came from a pet store rather than an orchid media store, it comes in whatever size it comes in. You can't sort of say I'll have some big stuff or I'll have some small stuff. You get what you're given. And in the main it's about the right size for what it's going to get used for most of the time. Some of the time not so much perhaps, but I just want small pieces. So in amongst the media there will be little places that stay permanently moist because of this stuff, and that's the places where the roots can head to, and on the way they will go through all the other stuff as well. But virtually across the board, as far as plants are concerned, the roots will search out moisture. They will find it. So distributing this throughout the potting mix implies that the roots will head to all parts of the pot, because that's where the moisture is, in all parts of the pot. You can see the logic there. Whether this is in reality this actually happens or not, I don't know. That's not so bad. It's mainly small pieces now. I don't mind a bit of fibrous stuff in there as well. You can see what else is going to go in here. Right, so that's some moisture enough to go throughout the pot. We'll take that long straggly piece out. So that'll do. So that's that element. Now I'm going to add some bark. And the bark really is for some hard substance for the roots to get hold of, because it's still an orchid at the end of the day, and orchids do like to grab hold of things. You usually find with terrestrials they will either bolt downwards or outwards. Those that bolt downwards are things like cymbidiums. They like a deep pot because the roots are just going to head downwards, and that's where they get their security from, deep rooted. So it holds them in place when the winds blow and all that sort of stuff. And then there are those that come from places where perhaps the terrain is not suitable for growing straight downwards. Perhaps it's rocky or something like that. They tend to grow outwards and get a big base for their feet. So this combines the two. We're going for everything here after all, aren't we? Right, so that's that, that and that. Now we're going to have some charcoal, as is my wont at the moment. I've still yet to prove that this does what it says on the tin, but why won't that open? Oh, I'll be back. That's. Oh no, it is a sealed. I was just going to say that's a new bag. It can't be. A new bag can't appear. So we'll have some charcoal. As I said, I don't know whether this does what it says on the tin, but it's being given a chance to do so at virtually every opportunity. Then it's going to get some perlite, but not a lot, because this is the end of a bag here and I don't want a pot full of dust, so I'm just going to scoop a few pieces off the top, and then what's left is going in the bin, I think. Could do without this really, but again it's moisture retentive. Add some air into the pot. It's just dust left now. Yeah, I do. Certainly don't want to be playing about with the dusty elements of this stuff, that's for sure. So we will wash our hands, get the dust and the charcoal off. I was flipping coal miner here. That's that. We use my towel. And then that is going in the bin, so that I don't get it out again, forgetting that it's a bag full of dust. Non-recyclable, obviously. Right, so now we're back to dry hands. So that's nearly all the elements so far. That's nice and hot now because it's been leaning against the kettle. Marvellous. And then the final ingredient that turns what you could say is a normal epiphyte mix into a terrestrial style mix is chunky coarse peat, which is also acidic. I got this specifically for my decis, but I'll use it wherever I think it's suitable. Now I've got to go careful adding this in because I don't want to be too heavy on this. I want it in there. It's got some chunky pieces, so I want it to look as though it's heading towards dirt, but never quite getting there. In other words, it becomes heading towards the dominant element of the mix. So I'm adding it a bit at a time, and I'm going by feel and look here, and I am leaving some lumps, but the larger lumps I'm breaking up. You have to bear in mind this is going to look very different when it gets water poured on it. No, going to go a bit more. What are we doing? I've got here for the flipping 2 potfuls now. You know what I'm thinking now, in the back of my mind now, I'm frantically racking my brains to think, have I got anything else that could go in this? Probably not. Yeah, I think that's about right. It's an earthy mix, but with plenty of air. In fact, I'm still going to put a bit more in. So that's it. Some bark, some coconut husk, some perlite, some charcoal and some peat. I suppose I could put the kitchen sink in there as well. Strange expression, everything except the kitchen sink, implying it's virtually everything, but it's still a strange expression. Right, now do we want cropping in the bottom of the pot? No. I'm going to go on the grounds that this is probably going to root deep, and I'm not putting the plants near the top of the pot either. Oh, that's nice. Right, let's go. Nothing more than an experiment this. The plant is currently desperately trying to come back into growth, but in effect is dying because it has no roots. And this has got no storage organs. It can't live off of its stored energy because it hasn't flipping got any. So if it doesn't get some roots quite soon, it will die. You know, it's not open to debate or question. It's not going to live long without a root system. Simple as that. So I'm just getting a earthy bit to go directly under the roots. You've got to go careful pressing a mix like this down. You know, if you use this sort of mix for your cymbidiums, say, you know, a sort of almost terrestrial mix, this could be classed as a terrestrial mix, but in reality it's not quite there, because it's probably got a bit too much on the air side compared with what a media should look like in a true terrestrial case. So and you also have to bear in mind leaf litter type environments are not firm, they're very loose. It's going to stay up on its own. I'm just looking for gaps now to see if there's any places I need to fill up, like there. Right, let's see what that does then. Now that, because of the peat that went in there, which is very moist, that's how it gets stored. If peat dries out completely, totally dry, it's a pain in the backside to get wet again. Water just runs off of it, it's weird. So that's it. I still think it's liable to die, but this is like a last ditch attempt. The moss didn't work, maybe this will. And if it does work and it starts to grow some roots, then it's in a media that it can stay in for a bit, so it can get a decent root system established. As I said, it's still actively growing. You know, there's probably half a dozen new growths showing. 1, 2, 3, 4, I can see 5, 6. So there's half a dozen new roots, and there's more tiny little bits of green showing near the base. So it's trying to grow. It just hasn't been successful at chucking the roots out to help it on its way. Without those, it's not going to last long. Probably should have got at this earlier, because it's been dropping leaves progressively. This leaf here will drop soon, so will that one. This one may. Still got some leaves to drop, so it's still not happy. Hopefully now, if those new leaves get going, under a new growth on a Masdevallia, normally roots grow directly under the new growth. So it's now a matter of giving it that chance, really. I'm not going to water that until that starts to dry off a little bit, because this is quite damp, this peat. We'll see how it goes, and I can see it through the side of the pot to see how moist or not it actually is. And hopefully one day we'll get some nice little streaks of white coming down here called new roots. But until then, that is on borrowed time. Joke. I keep forgetting me joke. I'm running out, that's why. But I've got one for today. And this is alright, because although this isn't really tasteless, although some people may think so. Right, it's all about training school for jockeys. So horses all over the flipping place, and the various things dunked on, you know, for walking in and things like that you get where there are horses. Anyway, it's a training school. So the trainee jockeys, they've done their classwork, they've done their theory, and they've done all that, and it's come for the first day where they're going to be allowed to get on a racehorse. But because obviously you don't want to put somebody who's not ridden a racehorse on one of the good ones, there's a group of horses that have come to the end of their racing days but still like to run, but they're getting on a bit. They're the older horses, you know, they're not ready for the tins of dog food yet, but they're getting on a bit. So although they can still run, they're not up to speed or anything like that. And they've been trained to run as a group and jump the first 3 fences and then peel off on the bend and come back to the stables. So the jockeys, all they've really got to do is stay on. They just hang on for dear life. That's all they've got to do. The horses know what to do. They're going to do it. So anyway, while they're all sort of settling themselves next to their horse and making friends and getting themselves known, the trainer comes up and he says, you in particular, I need a word with you because your horse is special. Now the horses will run together, so you don't have to worry about that, but your horse, when you're about 10 meters away from the fence, you must go 1, 2, 3 jump. Yeah, you've only got 3 fences, there's not a lot to remember, but you must do this, it's important. Just you, this is not the others, it's just you. So anyway, they all get up on their horses and they get their final sort of adjustments to their stirrups and all that sort of stuff and get comfortable. And then they all walk out to the start and then off they go. And the horses really do stay close together. And the guy on the special horse is starting to get a bit embarrassed about having to shout out 1, 2, 3 go. So as they come up to the first fence, he decides he's not going to do it. And all the horses jump except for this guy's horse that runs straight through the fence. Now luckily it's a flimsy low fence and doesn't hurt the horse or do any damage. And he sort of thinks, well, perhaps that was a one-off then. Perhaps I ought to shout 1, 2, 3 jump. By the time he's thought about it, the horse has run straight through the second fence as well. There's only 1 fence left to go. So he decides he's going to do as he was told. And as he's about 10 metres out, he goes 1, 2, 3 jump, and the horse flies over the fence higher than all the others. Absolutely brilliant. And then the horses peel off and come back to the stables, and the trainer guy comes up to this guy and absolutely furious. And of course now the guy's trying to think of an excuse why he didn't do as he was told. So the trainer goes, why didn't you say 1, 2, 3 jump? And he said, well I did, but I think he's getting old. I think he's a bit deaf. He said, he's not deaf, he's blind. Stupid. Think it through. See you next time.